got a request, and the request was about this monkey mind. How do you control this monkey mind? Well, first, let's look at what the monkey mind is. The monkey mind is the mind that never stops. It's constantly chattering. It never lands on one thought because it's constantly like you got a whole bunch of monkeys chirping in each ear, right? What about the job? What about my money? What about the bills? What about the things I want? What about the things I don't have? And so first we got to understand that some people deal with that mind. And if you deal with it, type in monkey mind in the chat bar there. And then the second part of if it's not only bad enough, right, that we have this chirping inside our own mind, which is a compiled amount of thoughts from the past, and those past conflicting with future thoughts and present thoughts, right? So I have my past thoughts. It's all the stuff that happened to me. I have this future. It's this thing that I desire. And then I have this present moment. And I'm constantly in this conflict between past and wanting this future and trying to maintain this present. So if you look at the monkey mind, right, what is it? It's the fight between the past and the future. And you're trying to regulate that sucker every day. And then if that's not worse enough, you have one person in your life over here, maybe a husband or wife's like, bap, 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 like, why don't we have this? Why are we here? Why are we struggling? Why don't we have happiness? Why don't we vacation more? And then maybe you have somebody else over here, like, hey, I told you, right? Maybe it's somebody from your past friend. I told you not to do that. I told you that was a stupid idea. I remember when people told me, they said, why are you going to grow a big service company in New Jersey? There's already big service companies. And I was like, yeah, so what? Like, there's also a Lowe's, there's also a Home Depot, there's a Sam's Club, a BJ's, a Costco. Like, I don't understand your point. But they were trying to chirp in my ear. So that created chatter. So now I have this past thoughts, all the shit that happened to me. I have this future, this big bright dream of what I want. That future is compiled by what you see everybody else has, which became, one of the largest states of, depression and being upset. And that came from the launching of social platforms. I mean, when you had a newspaper or you knew your buddy pulled up in a new vehicle, a new truck, a new car, okay, that was like one reference point. I mean, how many people were you really around, 3 decades ago? You were around a buddy. I mean, I was telling my son a couple weeks ago, I mean, when I had a little Toyota pickup truck, me and my buddies used to have a CB thing in it, and we used to like Smokey and the Bandit. We used to, did anybody else tell me in the chat bar if you have that? We'd like beep beep, breaker breaker. And like, so, I mean, how many interactions did you really have? You went to school, one person had a new car, one person had an old car. So the conflict that, the positioning of you comparing was very small, very small. And what? You didn't compare to newspaper, TV. Okay, so maybe you had MTV, you were comparing a little bit. As soon as there was a social media presence, the comparison effect became your past against not your future, everybody's future, right? Because all over the internet was happy families and perfect looking bodies and amazing cars and big houses and people bragging about my life and my job and my career and all this stuff. So now this just made the monkey mind go even more wild. It made it go berserk because everybody you're looking at, you're comparing against. So now you don't even know how to keep your mind straight because you're in a state of feeling let down, right? I mean, that's what most of the world is. They're feeling in a state of let down there because, like, I'm in constant conflict, so I should just be unhappy. Why not me? Why don't I have more? And then at the top, you live in a world where today you feel like you have to ask permission for everything, right? You can only drive so fast. You can only do so many things. Like, there's a constant state if you're in a relationship. Maybe you feel like you constantly got to ask permission there. And then you feel like you got to ask your children permission. And then when you go to bank, like to get your money, you have to give them a slip, which is like asking permission. And then when you give a credit card to buy something, it's like, here, I'm asking permission if this card will go through. So not only is it bad enough there's shit you want, you don't have, now you got to ask permission for everything. Okay, so you're like, Mike, enough. What do I do? Well, take charge of your brain. First off, you have to be able to take a moment and you have to create kind of tunnel vision. You have to bring all these thoughts into one thought, into one moment, into one framing. I have to take it and I have to lock it in. And I got to go, okay, how am I feeling about this thing? And why am I feeling about this thing? And where did that even start? And if I stay in this relationship of feeling this thing in this moment in time, how will that serve me? Will it empower me or disempower me? Now, if you just had a regulator that said, this thing will take my life and this thing will grow my life, and you had a measurement instantly, you're just like, well, let me see what I have over here. I'm sure I have a knife or something. Okay, here's a knife. So you're like, okay, this is going to take my life, and here's a coin I carry in my pocket every day, and this is going to give me life. So, like, let's say I have a thought, like, oh my God, I'm so jealous, wish I had that car by now. Okay, feeling that way. Give your life or take your life. Well, it's going to take parts of your mind. It's going to take parts of your life. It's going to take, and taking your life is not physically taking your life. It's taking the energy from your life, right? It's taking the energy from your life. And so if you actually thought about that a minute and said, wait a second, is this disempowering me? Is it hurting me? Is it fatiguing me? Is it making me exhausted? And then do I want that to happen? Like, am I okay with that? Am I okay feeling in this context of destroying my energy, my mind, my body, right? Now on the other side, I can say, well, wait a minute. Maybe since it's not an empowering thought, maybe I'll just get rid of it. That thought's not worthy of my time. I'm not going to keep thinking that. I'm going to go right here, make a decision. This is how I'm going to feel moving forward, and then move forward. But like, tell me in the chat bar if you're brave enough, how many of your thoughts, not the shit you tell people, not the, the big act and the big thing, how many of your thoughts would you consider are empowering, building you up, strengthening you, moving you forward, creating things that you want, getting you closer to your dreams? And how many of them are disempowering thoughts? Now, don't give me your, like, Mike, feel good about me, like I'm, 100% of my thoughts are empowering. Yeah, okay. I wish I could say 100% of my thoughts are empowering, right? I have to regulate my own thoughts. I have to sit here and say, wait a minute, is that thought about this situation, is it serving me or hurting me? If it's hurting me internally, well, I probably want to reframe that thing. I want to change it. I want to shift it. Because I know that it's not just hurting my mind. The mind controls the body goes to the spirit, and then eventually it's just self-destructing. So what percentage are you? Are you 50% where, hey, I'm 50%, I'm destroying myself in my mind, and 50% I'm building myself back up, so it's kind of destruction and build back up? Or are you starting to see where this process, as I'm sharing with you, is like, stop the chatter? Now, some of the chatter is happening because you have enclosed loops. There's incomplete situations. Now, let's say that part of the incomplete situation is you have a conversation and you have to get back to somebody and you have to tell them, like, no, we're not going to do this no more. This is not healthy. This is not great for our relationship, right? So let's say that we're there. But I never close the loop. I never tell them, like, we can't have a relationship like this. We can't keep doing this. So I have an unclosed loop. It's like a ring that's not closed. Now what happens is I have this thing that I was going to accomplish, this task that I was going to do, maybe open a bank account, doesn't matter what it is. So now I have another unclosed loop. Now my question is, ask yourself right now, and Tony, this is for, my brother was part of asking this monkey mind thing. How many unclosed loops do you have? And you guys could all thank him for asking it, because I think it's a great context to talk about this evening. But how many unclosed loops do you have? Like, hey, I got to get rid of that thing. I haven't. I had to have this conversation. I haven't. I had to get rid of this job. I haven't. I had to finish the garage project. I haven't. Like me, unclosed loops drive me crazy. I know for my brother too, because he did a big project on his house. Like for me, like I have to close the loops. Like it's got to be painted. The nails got to be in. The trim's got to be fucking done. The carpet's got to be in. Like if it's unclosed and it's just like hanging there like a wire, Like I gotta cut that bitch and put it in the wall because I don't like unclosed loops. Not because they're not finished projects, because unclosed loops clutter the monkey mind. So now I got all this shit I didn't do that I need to do, all this stuff I want that I don't have, right? I have all these people saying things that I don't agree with, all this fucking noise in the world trying to tell me. And look, what's the biggest chatter monkey today? It's like, oh, you're gonna have a recession. Recession's a fucking word. It's it's like what they said in the movie. It's like a fugazi, right? It's a fucking word. You choose the definition of it. For some, it's gonna be bad. For some, it's gonna be amazing. The minute you choose which side of the fence you want to be, do you want it to be shitty or amazing? All of a sudden, it will go that way. Remember, the monkey mind cannot manifest and create what you want. It can't because it's distorted. It's distracted. It's noise. It's like, let's see, imagine I have all these like webs of information here. And on the other side of this, I want to create something magical. And I have all these threads. And it's like I'm trying to look through this to create something. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to close the loops, you have to create it, and you have to make it aligned. The more your mind, now when your mind believes that it's a struggle, it's a pain, it's a torture, this is when people say, hey, I feel like there's a black cloud over my head. Well, of course. Think about it. Your mind creates your reality. If your mind is saying disempowering thoughts, and let's say it's 50% disempowering thoughts and 50% empowering thoughts, well, you're going to have 50% of rain and lightning and storms and disasters and 50% of good. So you're in a constant state of up and down. Good, destruction, right? Build, destroy. Now, if we could get it into empowering thoughts, not one of these bullshit. You ever see these people? They're always like, hi, and you're like, you're so fake full of shit. You know these people, right? You say, it's so fake, so fake. No, it's not one of those things. It's the point where you go, okay, this is what I desire. Am I in line with my desire? Is my mind in target with the desire? Am I saying the thing so my mind can go create it? Just remember, and I don't want to get too high level with everybody here. And if you do mind power, just so you guys know, I've got mind power coming up. Starts January 10th. Mind power. There's still some opportunities. I wrote it down. I think there's like 7 more spots left for mind power. And then of course you could always come to Change the Channel in March. We'll be live. Mind power is virtual. So it's 2 nights a week for 3 weeks. Literally reprogram your thinking about your mind, right? So if you want that opportunity, then just hit me up and we'll talk about it. We got a couple case study incentives that we could do for you. Now, if we go back to this and we have our mind and our mind is in line with what we want, you think you're separate from everything, right? You're like, oh, I'm a body. My feet are on the floor. This is a table. That's a computer. So I'm separate. No. There's one grid of energy, everybody. It's one grid. The fact that you can't see here, well, wait a second. How am I getting a message to you right now from where you're at? It's the transfer of energy from my energy mind out of my energy body to an energy field, traveling through space and time to a vehicle that's transferring it to you, going into your energy mind and field. Okay, now you're convinced I'm tied into some AI satellite or something, right? But this is how it works. It's just part of the grid. I mean, if you watch The Matrix, The Matrix is really a great example of you're not separate from anything. You're intertwined with everything. That's very powerful to understand this, because once you understand this, you know that what I think is actually not going somewhere. It's in the whole field. It's the field of creation. It's what you do. And I know it's like some of you are like, it's so woo-woo and foo-foo. Well, hang on a minute. It is 3 decades that not only have I been learning it, applied it over and over again. I just wrote it in the book. This is when I was going to sell. Now, the service company, some of you may know, some of you may not. I didn't think I was going to sell it till 2020. That was the target. So I wrote 2020. That's when I was going to sell it. Then I wrote the amount of money that I was going to sell it for. And The universe works in a way, the more alignment, it collapses time. Because remember, your greatest future is already built. Will you be aligned with it? And when will you catch up? Isn't that the reality? Like, when will you be aligned with it where you actually deserve it to attract it? Your mind's aligned with it. And when will you catch up to that? So when I set that manifestation in motion, which manifestation is nothing more than creating an intention of belief, okay? An intention of belief that I believe so much, if you believe it, you'll achieve it because it starts pulling towards you. Is this making sense? Can you type in make sense in the chat bar? Right? So now when you're sitting here and you're saying to yourself, okay, let me think. Now, the more clarity and the more information, like the more clear you can get around it. Because if you believe in something that's unclear, like a fuzzy TV, well, you're not gonna get anything from it. It's like the old channels you turn, and it's like, shh, you're not gonna get anything from it. You have to be really, really clear. So when I was so clear, I said by 2020, this amount money or sooner or more. You get it? Because if I said this much money and only that much, well, I can't get more than that. Universe only delivers what you set intention on. I mean, just try this. Try this tonight. Like, just humor yourself. Don't even humor me. Tonight, I want you to set an intention before you go to sleep. So when you lay there, like for me, I lay on my back. I normally cross my arms. Rob, my partner, used to say when we used to share a room together, we travel, he said, I would think like you're dead, but you never sleep. I'd just cross my arms. I breathe out and I set my intention, but I start to see the exact image of what I want to create. I see it in color and sound. I see it as is. It's already done. Now, if you sit there like the movie The Secret and you just say, money, I'm just going to sit here until money falls in my hand, you're going to die and die broke, right? That's how it works. You have to see the intention, and the intention will create motivation, and it will create movement, and it will create momentum, and you'll start moving forward. But if you go to bed and your intention, remember, all thoughts are intention. Here was a big awakening for me. And Patrick, one of my big awakenings for me was this. I thought that manifestation is something you do. And then one of my mentors says, yes, it is. It's something you're doing at every second of your existence. You're either creating what you want or creating what you don't want. And I was like, boom. I was like, I got it. I thought you sat down and you sniffed like frogs' asses and stuff, and you sit there and hummed and you know what I mean? And all of a sudden, that's when you manifest. No. Your brain, attached to your heart, attached to your energy field, is in a constant state of creation. So if you don't have what you want, you are a magnetic field of destruction. If you're getting what you want, you're becoming a magnetic field of attraction. Right? That's what they call the law of attraction. They were just missing some pieces that they shared with people, and they thought they would get there sooner. If a movie alone got you to, if Think and Grow Rich created rich people, everybody'd be rich. But the fact is, less than 5% of people will even create a company that's over $1 million. I mean, less than 5%. It sounds crazy. It sounds bizarre, right? So my question for you is, if you could just consider tonight before, and I'm going to wrap this up for you, set your intention. But if the monkey mind comes in and tries to destroy the intention, you have to close the loops. You have to remove the monkey mind and get back to the intention with clarity. You're in charge. Do you like understand you're in charge of your mind? Like, I know there's outside forces trying to control your mind. There's people, there's relationships, there's social media, there's news, there's all these things trying to tell you what to do, how to think, how to feel. But in the end, you get to really decide. Once you have to take ownership of your mind again. That's one of the biggest things through Mind Power that we'll do when we spend 2 nights a week over 3 weeks, is teach you how to get back in control of your mind. So you don't have these sabotages. You're not driven by guilt and shame. I mean, type in the chat bar. I mean, how many of you have, some form of guilt and shame just driving you, locked on you? I mean, it's like shackles somewhere. And even if it's from the past, you think it's gone, but when it triggers up and it pops up, all of a sudden you're in a state of destruction again. You're like, why me? Why now? Why don't I have this? Shouldn't I have more? Why don't I have more? And then you have to ask yourself, well, what do I want more? Why do I want more? Is more going to solve the thing? Like, are you ever going to scratch the itch enough? Because part of the destruction cycle of the monkey mind is constantly scratching an itch that you can't scratch, right? It's like money. It's like once you get some, like, did you scratch it enough? Well, then you buy something more and more expensive. It's funny, my wife and I don't remember the name of the series. Maybe she'll type it in. We're watching this new series, like the old cowboy days. I would have such been a good cowboy back then. And it's so funny. They're at that point where they're riding into town on horses, and the person's like, they're like, what is that? And it's like, it's a washing machine. And the guy's like, wait a minute. So I have to buy things from you, so then I have to work for you to pay for these things, then work for myself. It really makes you think, like, who are you an owner to here, right? Like, what itch are you trying to scratch here that you're constantly in a desire for this next thing? You know, one of my instructors told me, like, man, he told me a long time ago, Chris Rossman, he said, you know, the one thing about material things is you'll either own them or they'll own you. Probably what I would say today is you'll either own the material thing or it will own your mind. You know, I didn't know that back then, but I know it today, because when people have this, they want things so much, it just controls their mind. So let's do a little recap and let's get some action items. Recap, close the loops. Whatever you have unresolved, resolve it. Number 2, stop referencing the past. You got to reframe the past. It's that simple. Reframe the past, get ultimate clarity on the future, make sure the present's aligned. Number 3, you have to have intention. Set your intention the minute, as you're going to bed, set your intention what you want tomorrow to be, not what you don't want it to be. When I used to go to bed going, tomorrow's going to be a shit show, it's going to be horrible, we're going to work late, everything's going to break, that's exactly what happened. When I set the intention, like, everyone's going to show up, we're going to get out, we're going to make tons of money, things are going to go great, that's what happened. So set your intention. First thing in the morning when you get up, be like, boom, intention aligned. And then come back to this post tomorrow and send me a message and tell me what happened here. All right, I hope this was value for everybody. If it was, give me a big old boom in the chat bar. If it wasn't, type me the middle finger in the chat bar. It's okay. If you want to take advantage of the Mind Power training, it's coming up January 10th, 2 nights a week, 3 weeks. Change your life forever. Let me know. Send me a private message, post below, whatever. Tag me in it. And then also, I have some other subjects that I'm going to go live with tomorrow in the next couple days. Is there something you want me to cover? If there's a subject you want me to cover that will serve you in relationships, life, health, mind, achievement, peak performance, like taking yourself to the next level, being able to create success, whatever it is, type it in there and tag it. I'll do my best to keep going live, and let me know that you like them and you're getting value. If you're getting value, I'll keep doing it. If you're not getting value, well, I'll go do something else. All right. I'm rooting for you guys. Boom.